wasn't too long ago, Bev, that we heard information of both a car ramming and stabbing attack in Tel Aviv. What we know from police is that a man, they say he was a Palestinian man from the West Bank, drove into a number of pedestrians at a bus stop in Tel Aviv. He then hopped out of the car and proceeded to stab a number of people as well. He was shot dead at the scene by people who were around there at the time, passerbys, and we understand that, I think I've just got some more information, 7 people have been injured now. None of them appear to be in a critical situation at this stage. Some have been seriously wounded, but it doesn't look like anybody has been killed. But we have heard from the Islamic militant group Hamas, which is the group that controls Gaza. They say that this attack is a direct response to that ongoing raid in Jenin. Now, Hamas hasn't necessarily claimed responsibility for it, but they are linking this as a natural response, they say, the first response, in their words, to this ongoing raid at Jenin, which, as we speak, is still happening. We're into something like the 36th hour or something like that. It's been going for more than a day and a half now, and it's something where people in that refugee camp, the Jenin refugee camp, have been told by Israel to leave there. We saw about 500 people leave there overnight as this operation continued. There's about 1,000 military troops that have been sent in there, and they're not only using on the ground forces, they're also using a number of aerial strikes. We don't have an exact number, but it's definitely more than 15 now, more than 15 drone strikes that have targeted places around Jenin. Israel says that they're targeting Palestinian militants, but that operation is ongoing as we speak.
Do we know why, Allyson, Israel has launched this operation at this point?
Well, over the last 18 months, it's been an incredibly volatile time here in this part of the Middle East. We've seen a continuation of Israeli raids, almost nightly Israeli raids in the West Bank, and Jenin has been one of the major focuses of those Israeli raids, which Israel says is to target Palestinian militant activity, either targeting people who have attacked Israel or are planning attacks on Israel, as the military says. Included in that as well, we have seen a number of attacks within Israel as well. A number of civilians have been killed here, and so there has been this revolving door of raids and then attacks in Israel, and it seems that this is what we're seeing again now. Just a fortnight ago, Bev, there was quite a large military operation in Jenin where I think about 10 people were killed. Most of those killed were militants. A number of them, though, were civilians as well. And then the very next day, we saw an attack by a Palestinian militant on settlers in the West Bank, and 4 of those people were shot dead. And so there has been massive pressure from within the Netanyahu government to launch some kind of bigger operation in the West Bank, particularly targeting Jenin. The Netanyahu government, of course, is the most far-right government that Israel has ever had, and it's made up of a number of extremist members, settlers, who have been pressuring the Prime Minister and calling on the Prime Minister to launch some sort of a wider operation, which is what we're seeing right now. And Bev, it should be noted that this kind of a military operation hasn't actually been seen in the West Bank for about 2 decades. So it is a significant escalation by Israel.
Yeah, and you pointed out, Allyson, that this is, of course, home to a big refugee camp. What impact is it having on civilians?
Well, as I mentioned just before, a number of people in this camp in Jenin were sent text messages by Israel overnight saying you need to leave and get out of your homes to evacuate because they were planning to continue with this military incursion. So we saw hundreds of people physically leaving their homes, leaving behind all of their possessions and taking refuge in a different part of Jenin. They haven't necessarily left the city, but they're taking refuge in a different area of Jenin city. We do know, though, that there are humanitarian groups that are really concerned about the humanitarian situation there. One thing that we saw yesterday was Israel using these quite large bulldozers, ripping up the roads, they say, to look for explosive devices, to look for roadside bombs, which is something that we have seen used in the recent weeks. So those bulldozers came along and ripped up the roads, but at the same time they also destroyed electricity infrastructure and water infrastructure. So there are now thousands of people within Jenin that don't have access to electricity, to water, and there are big concerns from humanitarian groups and even people like the World Health Organization, which has called some of the actions there deplorable, about the ongoing situation for the people in Jenin and the fact that they don't have access to running water or to electricity, and in some cases they can't actually get medical help as well.
Yeah. And has the Palestinian Authority had any response to this?
Well, the Palestinian Authority is kind of redundant in this situation. I know that must sound quite bizarre to say that, but Jenin is a city that the Palestinian Authority really doesn't have any control over, even though it is meant to have control over that city. Jenin is actually a militant stronghold that the PA just has not been able to have any control over or to rein in any of these militant groups there. Palestinians on the ground, though, say this is one of the reasons that they are actually taking up arms there. They say they feel that their leadership is not fighting for what they want, which is for a Palestinian state. And so they have told us that the reason that they are taking up arms against the Israeli military when Israel goes into the Jenin city is because they feel they are the only line of defence. This is their words, and that they are simply defending their city and defending what they want. So the Palestinian Authority has come out with some platitudes saying that this has been a massacre and saying that, calling on the international community to put pressure on Israel to halt the continuation of this operation. But certainly from the people that we've spoken to on the ground in Jenin, they feel completely let down by their leadership.
Yeah, Allyson, a very volatile situation still. Thanks for your time.
English or not? Yeah. I really want to hear.